Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kalani here, and today we are finally putting coilovers on the Lexus. Now, first step that you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna put your car on jack stands, take off all the wheels, and for the front coilovers, I already disconnected the front sway bar and pushed it down, so that way we've got room whenever we're pulling the actual coilover, the stock coilover out. All right, once you've gotten the front sway bar out, what you'll want to do is you'll want to take these three nuts and loosen them. As you can see, I've already done that. So that way it'll pop down whenever you take off this bottom bolt right here, but it won't completely fall out and have the whole suspension mechanism fall down. All right, next up, you're gonna want to take off this. This is to the brake line or ABS sensor, I believe it is. Yes, the ABS sensor. And this is just a 10 mil. You take it off and it's just this little bracket. It's behind the coilover side. All right, now once you've taken off that, this can just stay back there. We won't need to mess with that for right now. Next up, we will be taking these bottom bolts out. It's a 17 on both sides, and it can be a little tight, so you might want to use a breaker bar, or what I'm doing is I'm taking the top side of my jack and slipping it in through here. I'll show you what it looks like. I'm taking it like this, and that way I've got all of this extra leverage on the ratchet. Right now, when you've gotten this bolt out, what you're gonna want to do is grab your 12 mil socket and take off these three top bolts while your other hand is holding on to the coilover so it just doesn't drop out. All right, now, once you've taken those three bolts off, what I found is the most easiest solution where you don't have to take off the upper control arm or the lower control arm is just turn your wheel all the way to the right if you're working on the left side, turn the wheel all the way to the left if you're working on the left side, and turn it all the way to the right if you're working on the right side. So that way the bottom can just slip out here, and you just kind of move the ABS line just out of the coil to make sure it doesn't catch on anything, and then just make sure that this brake line doesn't hit whenever you're taking it out. And then once that's out, like mine is, you'll put in the new coilover. One more thing to mention, on the stock coilovers, it has this little metal hat right here. As you can see, it just slides right onto these bolts, like so. And I heard that if you don't put this on in the reinstall, you'll have a clunking noise on the top hats. Okay, now once you put in this bottom bolt and the top three bolts, you'll connect the ABS sensor. On these HKS kits, they don't come with the strut itself with the little bracket, so they came with this little metal clamp and a little bracket for it so you can screw it in. And then I just made sure that it wasn't touching the coilover itself. And now we just push the sway bar back up, making sure that we can get it both end links in on each side. I already have the other side put in, and so now we will just put the nut that came on it back in there, tighten it down, and then we'll be done with the front, and we'll be moving to the back. For the disassembly, you'll want to disconnect these bolts right here for the sway bar, and then take out the bolt for the bottom of the coilover. Then after that, you're gonna wanna go up there and loosen up that bolt, and then go up to the top hat, take off those three bolts, and then once everything is off, then we'll take off these two bolts right here that hold the shock onto the car. This bolt in the back right here, we will have to loosen up this brace right here and completely take that bolt off right there so that can drop down so we can get to the back side of the bolt so we can back it out. So many extra steps just to do one simple thing on these Lexuses. All right, and once that bolt is out, the mechanism will just, or the lower control arm will just pop out like that. We can pull it all the way down to release the pressure off of this, just like that. And now all that's holding it in is the top bolts and these two bolts right here. So we'll get the top bolts off right now, and then we'll get that off, and then we'll start the reinstallation process. Old one out, you'll get the new coilover, you'll stick it up top, and what I find is the easiest way is just put a jack underneath the lower control arm so it stays in, so that way if you're working by yourself like I am, the bolts are up there and you can tighten them in without having to try to hold it up while tightening them. Now once you've got your coilover in and the top hat's on, you'll want to put the bolts back in right up there. And then next up, you'll want to get this bolt back in on the coilover. It looks like you just push down, I just push down on the brake to move the whole assembly down to where the holes will line up with the coilovers. As you can see, it's a little low right now, so I'll have to push this down a little bit so it'll line up, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. What I had to do is just step down on the brake rotor while putting a finger in here to make sure it was all lined up, and then putting the bolt through. And since we still have the other side to go, I haven't connected the sway bar end link back up yet, but once we get the other side done, we'll wind up doing that. Now once you get the end links in, you'll just put your wheels back on and drop it down and you're done. Now, what I noticed, a lot of people don't wind up filming the reinstallation of the end links. What I had to do to make sure that the end link on the lower control arm lined up with itself and made sure that the sway bar lined up with it is I had to take both sides off and then put the bolts for the lower control arm in first, and then push one side in and then go around to the other side, do the same thing, push the other side in, and then once both sides on the top were pushed in, then you could tighten down the tops. But yeah, I'll show you guys what it looks like whenever I put it on the ground, and then that'll be it for the video. All right guys, I got the other side down, and here we go. You're gonna see exactly what I see for the first time of how low this actually gets. Oh wow. That is a lot lower than what it was before. Let's skip the front. Oh yeah. It is definitely lower now. Cool. All right, well, thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching, guys.